Yo, Raider Nation, what is good? Thank you guys for tuning in. Look, we got a great show for you guys. We're going to recap the 49ers. We're going to kind of preview the LA Rams joint practices that are coming up, stock down for a few players over this past game. And look, there's a lot to be excited about. The Raiders really showed up. They put a dominant performance out on tape against the 49ers, and we're going to get all into it. But first and foremost, let me get into the chat and let me address everybody. Dodgers Everything says Raiders Resistance. And if you guys aren't following Raiders Resistance, make sure you go over to IG. Go follow what he's doing over there. It is fantastic. Yaya is in the building. What is going on, Yaya? Auntie Six Soldier has pulled up. What up, Ray? What's going on, Auntie Six? There's a lot to talk about. So we're going to have a great show, an exciting show, and we're probably going to open up the phone lines tonight and get you guys to call in, and we're going to talk how you guys feel about the Raiders rookies, the Raiders UDFAs, some players that maybe stood out to you that maybe we miss in our recap. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show. Sean Chef Johnson is in the building. Salute, Ray. Salute to you, Sean Johnson. Without further ado, man, let me just welcome in my co-host. I don't want to leave him waiting backstage.
Hey, this sounds so good after a win.
It's nice to have a win in the win column for the Raiders.
Especially after a win against the Niners, man. We hate the Niners over here. So,
yeah.
But it was a preseason game, but there's a lot to like, man, and we're gonna get into that in just a second, man. But salute to the chat, man. Salute to the nation. Hey, we're getting better. I think
today.
We're kind of on time. Season doesn't start until what, less than a month away. So by that time, we're gonna be on time, right on the money, man. We're gonna be on time. So, but I appreciate everybody coming through, man. Hey, man, it's all, like I said, it's always good coming after a win. Even if it's a preseason game, it feels good when the Raiders win.
Facts, man. I'm just excited to be able to be here tonight and talk about this. We wanted to talk about the game together, but we saved it for the show because that's always for the best content. So,
man, yeah.
Jerome Clemens is in the building. Says, Ray, what's good? I'm loving how everything's looking so far. Consistency is what I need to see now. Facts, man. That's exactly what we're bringing this season. Season 2 is excited, and we've got a big time announcement. We're honestly this close to announcing. So you guys are going to be super excited for it. It's been a long time coming. But yeah, we've got something in the works, man. And I'm excited to release it. So
yep.
Raiders Resistance says currently writing right now. Salute chat. Oh, I'm excited to read. Hey, anybody who has not followed Raiders Resistance, make sure you go. There's fantastic articles, great quality work. I can't say enough about what they're doing. And I got to get with Prez too. I've got an exciting build up for an intro. So,
hey, Raider Resistance is everywhere, man. You can't avoid them, man. They're everywhere, man. So, but yeah, definitely check out his website. He's writing good articles every day, so check him out. As well as IG, man. If you guys haven't followed him on there.
Well, hey, man, let's not keep everybody waiting. Let's hop right into it. Before we get started, everybody make sure you go smash the like button. So everybody that is in the building, it's free of charge. Go smash the like button. Let's other Raider fans know where you are. And if you guys can, please, if you have social media, if you have any type of platform, let people know where you're at tonight so they can tune in. Makes your experience in the chat that much better, makes the call-ins that much better. It goes a long way for us. So we don't ask for anything, just that you guys like and subscribe to the show. It helps us a ton. So that being said, Raiders versus 49ers game recap. Pharaoh, take us into how you felt overall about this game.
I mean, it's quite simple. I mean, the Raiders pretty much dominated the trenches. Yep. O-line, D-line, you name it, they were dominating. I mean, they won the game 34-7, but let's talk about how they started the game. I mean, they literally had Trey Lance running for his life. I will say the 49ers O-line is kind of suspect. They're backup O-linemen. And you probably can't name anybody outside of Trent Williams on that O-line. So
John Feliciano, former Raider, shout out.
Oh, is he playing for the Niners?
Yeah, he's looking old though.
Oh man, because last I heard, I mean, you know, once players leave the Raiders, sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track. But I remember him going from the Raiders to the Bills, and then I guess he left the Bills and now he's with the Niners now. But that being said, the Raiders were able to pretty much run the ball efficiently, to set up the play action. And Aiden O'Connell, man, like we'll talk about him in a second, but he was able to have a strong game. Zamir White was able to run the ball and obviously finish the drive, that first drive with the touchdown, which is good to see. But just overall, the team it seemed more energized, more well coached. They seemed prepared, and these are the backup players. So imagine the starters coming in. You could feel Hey, you know what? Before the season even started, not before even preseason, during the offseason, my whole thing was like, it's a wait and see approach. But I like what I'm seeing. For me, more so the offense from the defense too. Defense was, man, because it was good to see, because we seen that translate from everything that we've been hearing from training camp, the joint practices. We're able to see it against the Niners in the preseason game, and that D line dominated. I mean, guys that we really didn't talk about too much, like Rochelle, John Jenkins with a sack, Malcolm Kuntz. You see him? Hey, he look a little stronger. I know you've seen that.
And let's save it a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll get into all the nitty gritty as far as the player performances. But hey, it's a lot to like. I was excited, and like I said, it's always good when the Raiders win.
You know what's funny is when I was watching this, Trey Lance is entering his 3rd year, right? And when I was out there watching, all the reports right now are about how bad Trey Lance looked, and nobody's given Aiden O'Connell the respect of how good Aiden O'Connell looked. Trey Lance is a 3-year NFL player, and Aiden O'Connell looked like they could have reversed roles there. Aiden O'Connell looked like he was the 3-year vet. It looked like he's been in this offense for a while. He was poised. He stood in the pocket. I don't want to get too deep in on him, but offensively, the offense moved how we expect a Josh McDaniels offense to move. And what did that do for the defense? The offense was able to convert on 3rd downs. It left the defense off of the field. They came out fresh. They came out energized. They were forcing turnovers. They were forcing 3rd down stops. So everything that we were hearing in these training camp battles, these joint practices about creating turnovers, which the Raider had 2 turnovers, which in our preview, that's kind of the mark where I wanted to see. I said that I wanted to see us get 2 turnovers, and I said I wanted to see Aiden O'Connell get 3 quarters. We got both of those, so that's a huge win. We even left turnovers out there on the field. Duke Shelley could have had an interception in the end zone. Amari Burney could have had an interception in the middle of the field. So you're talking about what, 4 turnovers total, 3 interceptions, and 1 punch out. So overall, man, I think the
Shout out to Curtis Bolton, one of the guys that I pointed out before last game.
Yeah. So
that was a nice forced fumble, but I forgot to mention that as well. Like, I agree 100%. The fact that we were able to force turnovers, and I think that was one of your keys, is to see if the Raiders can replicate the success of forcing turnovers in practice to the game. It didn't look good too early because there was a lot of missed opportunities. Because I think the only touchdown they scored was, like you just said, right now,
off of the interception. Should have been interception. So that game could have been 34-0 easily. So, but with that being said, man, look, overall, it was a great first preseason. We're not going to get too high. We're not going to get too low. We're going to take the positives, and we're going to try to build that in going into the 2nd week of the preseason. So with that being said, there's a lot of players to kind of talk about. So I want to head in and I want to transition into the stock up. So as we were watching this game, there's players that just kind of jumped off of the screen, maybe some that were expected, maybe some that were unexpected. We're going to kind of get into that. And I want to start with Pharaoh. Pharaoh, players that are stock up for you, what did you notice specifically on the offensive side of the football?
I mean, I'm going to make it easy for everybody. The easy answer, I think he won player of the week this week. Aiden O'Connell, 15-18, 141 yards, a touchdown. He was able to come in, and he was poised, accurate. His pocket presence was pretty good. I even liked, I think, shout out to Baldy, Brian Baldinger. He had a nice little breakdown, and he was showing one of the plays that Aiden O'Connell was able to complete, and he was showing the subtlety of the play and how he was able to freeze the safety, look to his right, and he knew that he was going to come back, but the way he kind of executed that. That's not something. That's a great play by a veteran. Imagine a rookie doing that. And for me to see that, I'm kind of looking, and I'm a guy that's kind of was hard on Aiden O'Connell as far as, he's not mobile. Man, we could have got somebody else. But for me to see that, he looks real comfortable in the offense. Man, I think, in my opinion, the Raiders might be on to something. I think at the very least, hopefully, it's not going to be hopeful. I think he could lock up that number 2 spot. And I think he put in a really good showing, but there's a lot of preseason left. I think this is going to be really good for him to finish out. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody should come into the game. Let Aiden O'Connell take all the QB stats
I
from
agree.
preseason, get him prepared because we know that, knock on wood, I don't want Garoppolo to get hurt, but let's be honest.
Well, here's the
You know,
thing. This seeing what Aiden O'Connell can do, and let's just say he can do this for the next 3 preseason games. Let's not forget the fact that he went 15 of 18. 2 of those incompletions were drop passes, 2 of them by Trey Tucker. One of them was a ball that he threw to avoid a sack. So he
mhm,
had almost a near perfect game. He
yeah,
honestly had the potential.
yeah,
So and then they got in the red zone. They were 4 for 4 in the red zone. I believe they were 3 for 3 on goal to go situations. So overall, I mean, you honestly could not have asked for a better performance. And honestly, this makes me feel better about the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. Like, if
mhm,
this is Jimmy Garoppolo's backup quarterback and Aiden O'Connell is asked to go into a game for a game or two, maybe 3, I'm not going to say he's going to go out there and dominate or anything like that, but I have a sense of comfortability knowing that Aiden O'Connell is going to be prepared if his number's called upon.
yeah. I think it's smart by the Raiders to let him play as much preseason as possible to get him prepared. And because at the end of the day, like I said, before I before you made your point, Jimmy G, it's a trend. At the end of the
Mm.
day, like he does tend to get hurt, but for him to get hurt, and you got a guy like Aiden O'Connor that can possibly come in and be effective, that's a great thing, and that's a good sign for the Raiders' future. But there's a lot of preseason games left. He still has to get a lot of rookie mistakes out of his system. So, but I'm definitely like what I'm seeing, and I think the NFL took notice as well with everybody talking about how this guy looks like a future NFL starter, and you know uh, he obviously looked like the best QB from last weekend out of all the rookies. If he's the best QB out this draft, that remains to be seen. But if that happens, Dave Z, you are a legend.
The more and more that these guys get playing time, it just looks like Dave Z knows what he's doing when it comes to drafting football players.
Yeah, yeah, and he was one of 3 players to get a 90 PFF rating, which is a good sign. I don't know if anybody's big on PFF, but it's a good rating. It's a good rating. But yeah, man, he was on point, man. He executed. He did get protected well. It's not like the opposing defense touched him like that, but I like how he was able to maneuver in a pocket, make subtle movements. I just there were subtleties to his game where I'm like, oh, okay, man. Like I like what I'm seeing, and this is from a rookie too. So, and this is big for him too because he's not a mobile guy. That's not. I'm not trying to. He's not a mobile guy, but for him to just move around in that pocket and make plays, yes,
But he
it's
does what Josh likes. You seen those quarterback sneaks? Like, he was tough. He
yeah.
was tough. He was able to get more than what they needed. His ability to avoid the sacks, that was impressive. It looks like he wasn't gun shy in the pocket. He wasn't hesitant. He didn't curl up.
Yeah.
And it's no shots to any other number 4.
Who does he remind you of? I don't want to put you in the spot, but like I'm trying to think like who does he
I don't want
remind
to
you of?
say it. You're gonna make me say it, and I don't want to say it.
You know what? You about to say Mac Jones?
No, I was going for the GOAT.
Oh, you going Tom Brady? Whew,
He
that's
just
tough, bro.
not here. That's why I didn't want to say it, because I'm not saying he's the next Tom Brady or anything like that. It's just his stature, his poise, getting the ball out, going through his reads, throwing guys open. It all looks very similar, is all I'll say. I'm not saying he's Tom by any means, but there's a lot of aspects of his games that I know that Josh McDaniels likes and covets. This is his style of quarterback. Put the ball where I design it to go. And that's what Aiden O'Connell's going to do.
And he has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, the guy was a walk-on at Purdue.
Right.
So he feels like he's overlooked. No one really talks about him. He got drafted in the 4th round, 4th, 5th round. So like, he has that on his shoulder. I think he had a great quote where he was talking about how people were talking about how he had the number 4 jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and why did he choose the number 4 jersey? He said I thought it was interesting. He didn't choose the number 4 jersey. They actually gave it to him. They said,
Mm-hmm.
here's the number 4, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like that was on purpose.
You
You
think?
for you to obviously Derek Carr had the number 4 jersey. You just that's the first number to give to him. Like it was kind of interesting. But anyways, his answer was like, it doesn't really matter what number I wear. It's really what I do on the football field and yada yada yada. So I think that hey, it's early, but I like what I'm seeing from Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. And sticking to the offensive side of the football, I mean, let's just address the offensive line while we're at it. I mean,
Yeah.
Dalton Wagner, 4th quarter, came in at right tackle. he really played lights out. I mean, he was nasty. Did a cut block, got up into the second level. The only I seen one rep, if I'm going to nitpick a little bit, just because that's what we're also here to do. He does like to put his head down a little bit and kind of reach with his arms. That's something that I kind of didn't like. But
Mhm.
overall, pass protection, he had an extremely good grade. Stood up in pass protection. He's a power right tackle. He's 6'8", he's 315. He's got everything that you would want in a right tackle. Now he's going to be a project. This guy isn't, going to go out there and beat out Jermaine Illuminor. I think Jermaine Illuminor is the Raiders' right tackle from what I've seen this preseason game. We'll kind of monitor it as it kind of goes. But no, I thought Dalton Wagner really helped his stock, and I think it was another UDFA fine that you're probably going to have to protect him on the practice squad because he's too big, he's too strong. And I think that this was an upgrade. If you remember last year,
Mhm.
the Raiders went out and got a big right tackle in Bamidele Osaline. And obviously that didn't pan out, but he was a road grader. They like those big tackles, kind of like the Trent Browns, former Patriot.
Mhm.
So they take a chance on these guys just to see if they can pan out. And Dalton Wagner definitely has that upside to his game. And I thought also, just to finish out on the offensive line, Netane Moody. I thought
Mm.
Netane Moody actually played good at left guard. Now,
Yep.
me personally, I'd probably like to see him swing over to the right side, if I'm being honest with you. But Van Roten has been playing good football, so to have depth at the guard position is not a problem, a bad problem to have. It's actually a very good thing. So I'm going to keep track on Netane Moody. I seen him kind of bullying and throwing some guys around in the game for the 49ers. And a notable mention on the offensive line, not stock up or stock down, but it was a guy last year I was keeping my eye on because he just flashed for me as far as pass protection, and it's Jordan Meredith. Jordan Meredith put on size. The Raiders obviously like aspects of his game. He came in late last year when there was injuries on the offensive line. Um, and obviously the Raiders like some traits about him, and I do too. And they let him stick around for another year. It looks like he put on some size, which is nice. That was my critique about him last year. He was a little small, so
Yeah.
he looks bigger this season. And I think he's just that one guard on the line that nobody really ever gives him credit or ever talks about. But every single time I watch his film, I'm like, man, this guy is just a solid football player. He's
Yeah.
not elite or great in any areas. He's just really good.
Yes.
So I don't
And
know. I
going
like
back
him.
to Netane Moody,
Yeah.
I think that it was big for him to have a great game coming in for Parham. Hopefully he's okay. He got hurt, but Moody was able to come in for him. He had a great game run blocking. I think he had like a key block on that McCormick touchdown in the third quarter. Man, like I think that, and he was actually one of the 3 players that got a 90 rating for
Yeah.
that game from PFF. So he had a really good game. It's definitely a guy that could possibly make the roster. At first, going to the game, he was probably on the bubble because obviously from what we're hearing, it's the big, obviously the big competition is on that right side, that right guard spot, Van Ruten and Alex Bars, who didn't even play. I thought that was interesting. I'm
He
like,
did it.
Alex Bars didn't play, like, and he's in competition with. I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's not like he hasn't come. Are you telling me Alex Bars locked up the right guard spot, which I thought was kind
No.
of weird,
He may
but
also be dealing with something that's not been released either.
right. But yeah, hey, at the end of the day, I just want the best players to play. And if Moody could lock up that right guard spot or actually make the team and be a depth piece, because injuries are a part of NFL, and we'll get to that in this later on in the show.
Mhm.
But injuries are a part of NFL. So especially having good old linemen, man, it's gonna be huge.
Now, kind of pivoting from the offensive line, can we make a case for Cole Fotheringham to make this roster?
Woo, 5 catches, 71 yards.
I mean, everything that came his way, he went up and got it and came down with it. He looked like a stable, consistent force in the tight end room. And I'm telling you what, the Raiders are building a tight end room that everything that you just seen out of Cole Fotheringham, if I replace that with Michael Mayer, like you're talking about a dynamic tight end room. And in this offense, the ability to scheme Michael Mayer, a guy like Mayer open, is going to be fun to watch. But look at the depth. The third tight end, Cole Fotheringham, goes out there and made it look easy. I'm really excited to see his reps moving forward against the Rams. And let's be honest, the Rams are a lesser talented team than the 49ers, even though maybe contrary to popular opinion.
Your audio went out. Your audio. But yeah, Fatherham, man, he had a really good game. Really good. I'm not sure if he's gonna make the roster, maybe a practice squad. I'm not even sure if he can make it into practice squad, because if he puts on a good showing for preseason, obviously a team is gonna be watching. He's gonna be a nice little pickup for a team that's looking for a tight end or a depth piece, and maybe a better opportunity, because at the end of the day, the Raiders drafted Michael Mayer.
Yep.
Austin Hooper is another veteran, and people are forgetting Horsted who's had a really good camp up until he got hurt. So I'm assuming why he didn't play last game. But the Raiders got some depth at tight end.
Yeah, and I think the Rams are a lesser talented team than the 49ers, and it's not popular opinion, but I honestly believe that the 49ers might be on their way down. I don't think that they're necessarily the same team. I think that they have a real issue at the quarterback position. I think history would say that at some point Brock Purdy's probably going to go down, and Trey Lance and Sam Darnold are not going to get it done for you. And let's be honest, this has happened with Kyle Shanahan in the past with the Redskins when he got Kirk Cousins and then got RG3. And it's like these guys pop up and are a flash in the pan for him, and he moves on from the big contract guy, and it doesn't necessarily always pan out. I think the 49ers looked at this as an opportunity to get out of the Jimmy Garoppolo contract and get Brock Purdy in there and save a ton of money and throw money around the roster. And I don't necessarily think Brock Purdy's going to be the guy. Year two, a lot of guys are going to be able to scheme against Brock Purdy and what he does well. You're not going to catch the league by surprise anymore. So yeah, I just think overall they're not that great.
But you know what, though? I think it was a good risk for them to take, because let's say if Brock Purdy is just one of those guys that was a 1-year wonder, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, he was a 7th round pick. For him to come in and play the way he played was a good story. But if the league figures him out and he doesn't, he keep, the Raiders, I mean, not the Raiders, but the Niners, we're talking about Niner football, who cares? But that being said, if the league figures him out, then everything kind of sets up for them, meaning they lose some games next year, because they're in a division where, Seahawks starting to come up. The Rams, they're still the Rams a little bit. They got some, even though the Niners have their number, but it doesn't seem like they have a lot of depth, and that O-line looks kind of shaky.
Exactly. And that's the biggest problem that they have moving into the next season. So
yeah,
we'll see. I don't think the Rams are still as good as the 49er team that we just played, but man, tell me about Sincere McCormick real quick.
No, but the point that I was going to make before we move on is the fact that let's say they lose out this year and they go into a historically big QB draft next year. With that team, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that is true. That could probably be a plan.
you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, it just makes sense. Like, you know what? Jimmy G's not the guy. Purdy, we don't know, but let's just give him to see what he does. And if he doesn't get it, hey, we still have a talented roster. We still can regroup, and it's a great QB draft. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's something to keep our eyes on. But yeah, I want to talk about Sincere McCormick because we'll get to another player here in our next segment, but I thought Sincere McCormick kind of flashed a little bit. Now his average wasn't great, but I thought that he brought something to the offense that I'm looking for. Just a little bit of a spark, the ability to be a receiver, the ability to pass block a little bit better. I'm gonna keep on track on him the rest of the weeks in preseason and kind of see, because look, if he goes out there, when you have Amir Abdullah playing in the fourth quarter, look, there's an opportunity here for these running backs. I know Brandon Bolden didn't dress, so he's probably a lock to make the roster. But Sincere McCormick can go out here and have a big preseason. And if he's not doing it for the Raiders, he's definitely going to suit up and make a roster somewhere around the NFL. So coming off of that ACL injury, I thought his first debut performance, he looked decent. But I'm really going to keep tabs on him here in this Rams game because I think he's going to get a lot more reps.
Yeah, he doesn't look super fast, but it's like he kind of reminds me of Bradshaw.
Okay.
Remember, remember, running back from the Giants.
Yep.
Not really big, but surprisingly got a lot of power. You know what I mean?
Carry people.
Yeah. Like he just reminds me that not a big running back.
He just looks like a chain mover to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something that I like because he's nowhere near as big, but if everybody remembers, one of my favorite Raider running backs, just the era that it was in, was Michael Bush. I really liked Michael Bush.
Yeah. Underrated.
Definitely
underrated.
But yeah, stock up. We hit Aiden O'Connell, Dalton Wagner, Cole Fotheringham, Sincere McCormick, and Attain Moody. The
Mhm.
notable mention was Jordan Meredith. I thought he was good, and nobody's kind of talking about that. So I wanted to throw his name in there in the mix. That way, the people that follow our channel can kind of tune into that against the Rams and maybe pick up some steam on the Jordan Meredith train, a guy that's probably going to be on the practice squad. Um, but let's shift over, stock up to the defensive side of the football. And
Okay.
look, the defense flashed. Let's just be honest. I'm going to talk about it. I think Amari Burney flashed more than anybody. I think the linebacker room is pretty questionable at this point. And
Mhm.
for him to step in there and get a sack, and he was going for the ball on that sack, by the way, and it
Yeah.
almost popped out. He looked decent in coverage, and to me, he looked big out there. I don't know if you caught that too, but he kind of looked big out there.
Yeah.
Um, he dropped a pick, which you want to see him haul that in. But look, for his debut, if he could have came away with that pick, a sack, good in coverage, disciplined in the run game, like for a rookie drafted at his position, he came in, and really impressed. So Amari Burney was definitely
He was making plays.
he was making
He was
plays,
making plays.
and that's
He was
all you
making
look
plays.
for. So hitting on these late round picks, this is how you turn an organization around quickly. And if the Raiders can continue to stockpile these late round draft picks and hit on them, this organization is going to get to where it wants to be a lot quicker. With that said, sticking to the linebacker room, Curtis Bolton, undersized linebacker, but man, was he
One of my guys, I called
yeah,
him out.
yeah. Farrell mentioned him last week. Curtis Bolton running around there, year 2 guy, really stepping into his own, trying to move away from the special teams only aspect and get some playing time in the linebacker room. And he went out there, had a punch out on the football, created a turnover, and that's how you stick around on a roster. So Curtis Bolton looked really good. Aggressive in run in the rundowns, special teams. He was flying down the field, making hits, fired up,
Mhm.
bringing energy. So Curtis Bolton is also one of those guys to kind of keep an eye out on the list. And before I move it over to Farrell for maybe somebody who stood out for him defensively, Malcolm Kuntz. I brought it up last week. The matchup was Adam Plant Jr. versus Malcolm Kuntz. Who was going to show up to that because Adam Plant was getting a ton of hype. Man, Malcolm Kuntz, if you go turn on the film, the statistics, if you look at the box score, doesn't show much. But when you look at the pressures, he walked Adam Butler into his sack. He looks faster, stronger than the other rotational defensive ends out there. Malcolm Kuntz looks to be like that guy outside of Tyree Wilson, Chandler Jones, and Max Crosby. Yeah, give me Malcolm Kuntz to shore up that defensive end spot.
I'll throw in a honorable mention as well too.
Okay.
John Jenkins,
John Jenkins
a
looked
guy
good.
that we haven't really talked about too much, but for him to come in and he obviously pushing that offensive guard. I don't know if it was center offensive guard and to get that first sack of the game. I thought he was good. Neil Farrell Jr. making plays out there. A guy that was drafted last year. You know who I didn't see too much? And hey, you know what? And you kind of called it before the game. Is he on a bubble maybe? D tackle that we drafted last year along
Matthew
with Neil
Butler.
Farrell. Was it Matthew Butler? Did he?
Yeah.
I think Adam Butler was the one that made the sack
Yeah.
that game.
Matthew didn't play till the fourth quarter.
Whew.
So here's the thing. I thought Neil Farrell Jr. played one heck of a game.
Had that
Like
fourth down stop
that
too.
fourth down stop, he was nasty in run defense. He was kind of stepping into the player that they brought him in to be. I like Neil Farrell Jr. I think if we're basing this off of week 1 performance, I think that he definitely outworked Matthew Butler. But listen, Adam Butler had a heck of a game as well. So you talked about John Jenkins, Adam Butler, those veteran defensive tackles came here to play. And they looked good they looked good on Sunday. So
Mm-hmm.
these guys, these young rookies, or second year guys, Matthew Butler, they're not a lock to make the roster, in my opinion. I think Matthew Butler honestly might not make this roster. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah, I'm not hearing too much from training camp, and then also the combination of we just watched the game, and did we even hear his name get called? Did we even notice that he
No.
was in the game? So I'm not sure if he even makes the roster. I agree too, but that's a good problem to have, man. You got other players stepping up so much that it makes a guy that was drafted last year, expendable.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign for the Raiders because they got some talent in that room. Another guy that looked good too as well is Willis, the guy that we switched. He switched spots. Jordan Willis. He switched spots with
Cleve Farrell.
Cleve Farrell, and he looked good. He was able to team up and get a sack in the game as well. He was part of. I think did he get a 4th down stop as well? I don't know if he was in there.
Yep. That was
He had
Jordan
a 4th,
Willis.
so he was making plays as well. So hey, we can talk. The D line was a force this game. Like we started the show. Hey, if we want to keep it simple, the trenches won this game. I know it's a preseason game, but it's good to see when players make plays, and you can start taking notes on seeing which players can possibly contribute to the season. But yeah, defensively, man, it started with the D line, and we didn't really hear too much hear from him. But I guess it's a good thing because Jacorian Bennett.
Yeah, they didn't even look at his side.
They didn't even look at his side. They weren't even thinking about it. I don't think Trey Lance.
They got enough of him in practice.
Trey Lance. I seen a quote, and I was telling Ray about this. It said that it said Trey Lance played worse than his stats, and his stats. Let's go look at his stats. Let's go look at his stats real quick.
But no, you nailed it. It's the trenches that won this game. I mean, they dominated from interior of the offensive line, tackles keeping the quarterback clean, defensive line just getting after it.
Oh, it will, 10 for 15. Okay, yeah, I can see why they said that.
It doesn't look terrible on the stats.
Terrible, but I thought he had terrible stats in this.
No.
But his QB rating was terrible, I think.
This was not a true reflection of his performance.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, man. He looked like a rookie QB compared to Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was like, you can flip these roles, and Trey Lance being the 3rd-year player, Aiden O'Connell looked like he was the 3rd-year player in this offense.
Look at this, man. 15 for 18.
And remember, 2 of those were drops.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're talking 17 of 18. Like that is impressive. Did you see he actually had the highest rating among like quarterbacks over the last 10 years? Rookie rating, Aiden O'Connell. He beat out Patrick Mahomes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean,
he beat out Patrick Mahomes. All that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. Hey, man, I'm trying to keep my composure here because at the end of the day, like I know, hey, I can't base everything off one game, but like I said, it's a lot to like. It's a great start to his young career.
But it's going to be cool to see if he can do this over the course of the next couple of games, because it's got to give you a good feeling, right, at the backup quarterback position. If Aiden O'Connell can go out here and do this consecutively, and maybe this is who he is as a player, look, I'm okay with the Jimmy Garoppolo experiment.
Yeah. Hey, but my guy GA Patriot got something to remind everybody about, man. Make sure to hit that like button, man. We very much appreciate it. We want to keep coming back and making this content, but in order for us to do that, you guys got to support. And how you guys do that, just hit that like button. If you guys haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, we're on Raider Ray's channel. The next time we go live, or I think next week when we go live is going to be on my channel.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you're subscribed to both channels, but hit that like button, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell, because that will let you know when we go live, anytime we drop content as well. So that's very important that you hit that notification bell.
Daniel Kim in the building says definitely pressure up the middle, great energy the whole game and generating turnovers. And that was the talk about the entire joint practices. And we talked about the Raiders were doing it against the Raiders at the beginning of training camp. Then the joint practices came, and that kind of translated over into the joint practices, Raiders creating turnovers and getting pressure on the 49ers. And then they took what they were practicing and they applied it to the game. And that is what you're looking forward to. So I'm not going to just put a bunch of coal in the fire and get this train up to speed, because last season we also went 3-0 in the preseason. So and to be honest with you, last year in the preseason, I thought our team looked relatively disciplined. Like they didn't look terrible. They looked like they knew what they were doing. So I don't want it. It's not indicative of what's going to happen in the regular season, but I will say from what's different from this year to last year is there's a term in football that says like you're only as good as your depth. And I think for the first time in a long time, I think you get the sense that the Raiders actually have a good roster that has a ton of depth to it. So that's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the depth that we can create, how those guys play, and if their number were to be called, if they can handle it. GA Patriot says, facts, Ray. Fotheringham was looking super sharp. We may have a top 5 tight end room this season. Woo. Bold prediction, GA.
Yeah, but I don't know if the Raiders are going to be keeping more than 3 tight ends on the roster.
No, they'll probably keep 3.
Yeah, so
I mean, I guess it depends on how the other rooms kind of shake out.
Mayer, Horsted, Hooper, that's 3.
Yeah, but if Fotheringham goes out there and puts 3 games out here like this, like
Yeah, I mean, does that
he's gonna
make?
get picked up.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna get picked up. So they can't even like expect him to be on practice squad.
No, you're gonna have to protect him. How many protected practice squad members do you get?
If do you think Horsted? This is what year is it? What is this the second year, third year?
No,
Second year?
Horsted's been around for a little bit. He's not old, but I'm saying he played for the Bears and then he came over to us. So
Yeah, but he's had a good camp from what I heard too. So
no, they like him. They
yeah,
like
they
him a
really
lot.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, like I said, it's a good problem to have.
All eyes on G is in the building. And if you guys haven't, man, smash the like button. Let other people know where you're at. Daniel Kim, Fotheringham was eating Imagine Mayor and Hooper. Yep. GA says hit the like button, and James Furbo says Raiders. All right, man.
Let me give him a Raiders, man. Hey, because James Furbo,
that's his thing.
That's his thing, man. Mr. Consistent. Mr. Consistent, man. He always comes in and says Raiders. Appreciate you,
all
my
right,
guy.
and now heading into, and everybody, make sure you leave your comments. We're going to address them all tonight, and we're probably going to open up the phone line. But our next segment is stock down players, and I know it's a 34-7 win. It's hard to find the flaws, but we're going to point out the things that didn't look very good to us, and we're going to be critical, but we're going to do it in the right way. So, Pharaoh, stock down. Maybe give me a player or two that you've seen that stock was down.
I mean, when the Raiders win 34-7, there's not like a whole lot where you could look at and be like, oh my God, this guy's terrible. But that being said, there were some players that they left a little bit of meat on the bone. And I'll say Trey Tucker. I think his stock, I want to say down, but hey, one, like you just mentioned, Aiden O'Connell could have had a perfect game, almost perfect game, but he had 2 drops, and 2 of those drops happened because of Trey Tucker. Especially that dime he threw on the sideline. Deep sideline, like, oh my God, I don't know why. I don't know how he didn't catch that, but I think that if he needs to clean up the drop. I think as a route runner, I think he looks pretty smooth. He had a nice little route when he caught that one catch he had for 15 yards. But he needs to clean that up. And from what I'm hearing in training camp, drops has been an issue, and it's now showing up in the game. So I think for him to be a key contributor this year, or to be a key contributor on this team, he needs to clean that up. So I think Trey Tucker is definitely a player where his stock is down, but definitely has potential to go up easily. But for right now, it's down.
Yeah, and for me, sticking to the offensive side of the football, Zamir White. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Raiders offense, and I'm going to come out and say it, the Raiders offense needs Josh Jacobs. I think it's pretty apparent. Zamir White is just not that guy. I thought on the crack toss in the red zone, when it's a one-on-one situation like that, you've got to find a way to make that one guy miss. That's what the great running backs do. And if Zamir White wants to be that guy, you just can't go down on a simple tackle like that. You know, he has great power, but he's a one-cut type of back to me. He gets up in the second level, he puts his pads on people, but that's about his game. You're not really going to see a bunch of moving and shaking. You're not going to see him being creative out in open space or people fearing that it's one-on-one and it's him or the defender. So for me right now, the hype train of Zamir White just is not there for me. And I think outside of Josh Jacobs, this running back room is lack of explosiveness is pretty evident. I know that we faced a good front, but the fact of the matter is after I watched this, it's evident the Raiders need Josh Jacobs. So I wasn't as high on Zamir White, to be honest with you. I thought Sincere McCormick might have a little bit. I don't know. I'm pretty open to that running back room right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. He was one of the guys where I thought it was hard making this list because, like I said, the Raiders won 34-7. It was a lot to like from that game. But Zamir White, when I was watching him play, it just made me like want Josh Jacobs to come back sooner rather than later, man. Because I just don't. With Zamir White, you know what it is? It's not that he's a bad player. It's just I don't think he's special.
Right.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I see his ceiling. It's just like, oh, okay, you're one of those running backs, solid. You know, at best, you're going to be a solid running back. You're going to do your job. They still don't know if he can be a receiving threat. I'm not sure how, we didn't really see too much of him like on third down, maybe, to protect the quarterback or catching the ball at the backfield. So those are two question marks about his game that we still need to. And even when he runs the ball, it's like, man, that outside toss that he had at goal line when he literally he was one on one with, was it the safety or corner?
Yeah, and so much room to be creative to make him miss, and he just kind of, and he honestly he didn't even lower his pads to just kind of make a tough play. He just kind of got tackled.
If that was Josh Jacobs, that
Oh,
would
that would have been
be
easy.
Sports Center top 10. He would have either ran him over, stiff arm, spin move, cut
Yeah,
a cut, but that's not Zamir White's game.
but that's what's going to separate him from, like I said, he's a good back, but he's not great and he's not elite. Josh Jacobs, even with a bad offensive line, he's in that good category. You give him good blocking up front, he's in that elite category.
Yeah.
And it's pretty evident. I think the Raiders need to do what they can. And it's not to backtrack on anything I said. Look, I was kind of against the big time extension and making him the number one highest paid running back and all that kind of stuff. But I'm more than happy and more than willing, like I've said in previous shows, get him on the franchise tag. He's the third highest paid running back in the league. When you do that, the Raiders, it's evident they need him in this offense, especially this season with Jimmy Garoppolo under helm. So get Josh Jacobs back in the building, because if you can do that with the blocking we're getting up front, this could be a really good offense.
Raiders 805 says JJ is an elite. Well,
Mm.
last season he was.
Yeah, last season. And I would agree with that. Look, Raider 805, you're right. And that's kind of what I've been echoing. He had one really good season, and that was under Josh McDaniels. And it was contract year, which everybody on this channel knows how I feel about contract years, especially with the running backs, skill position players, wide receivers, DBs. Whenever you walk into those contract years, I have a lot of buyers beware. And I kind of predicted that last year with Josh Jacobs. If you guys wanted to go all the way back and kind of see that, I predicted that he was going to have the best career of his, the best season of his entire career. Those contract years that's a real thing in the National Football League. So I would agree that over the course of his career, he hasn't been elite. He's been a good running back. Last season, though, he was elite, and he showed the ability to be dynamic in the second level.
But the thing is though, like he's been consistent. He's been consistent. He's had 1,000 yards pretty much every year other than one year. And that year he was hurt majority of I won't say majority of his games, but he missed a lot of games. And that was probably the reason why he didn't get 1,000 yards. But he's been pretty consistent. And then he just took it to a whole different level last season. So I think if Josh Jacobs has another great season, then I guess you can firmly put him on that elite status, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
he showed us something that we didn't really see from him before, where he literally took it to the house. It was a 90-yard touchdown, 80-yard touchdown
Mhm.
against, that's not a big part of his game, but hey, like Raider fans, we kind of sometimes we'll look at like, oh man, he can't do this. He doesn't have elite speed. But man, when you watch Zamir White, you see what Zamir White doesn't have, and he doesn't have what Josh Jacob has, that ability to cut, make people miss, break tackles, vision.
Yeah, there's a few categories he doesn't have it.
Just,
But hey, and that's no disrespect, but it's just being honest of what's out
yeah,
there on film. So we kind of said it. We kind of said it heading into this game. Hey, you can't hide from the film for too long. And if Zamir White's the guy, then we were going to be able to see it on film. So there's still 2 preseason games. He could show a little bit more of his game, and maybe he has a bounce back game and explodes onto the scene. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But stock down, just 2 players to sum this up pretty quickly. Azizi Hearn, DB, he was getting burnt out there. The defensive back position. I don't expect him to make the roster.
yeah.
But in the 34-7 game, he was the one guy that was really getting picked on all game.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last guy is right tackle Thayer Mumford. It was a little bit underwhelming for me. I thought Jermaine Illuminor looked like the guy. Not to say that he looked perfect by any means, but I think with his reps, I think I counted. I think he had 12 or 13 reps at right tackle, and he looked pretty darn solid out there. So Thayer Mumford, I don't think he's there yet. I think that there's quite a bit of hype, and maybe that was happening because the Brandon Parker injury wasn't announced yet. So they're kind of boosting his stock a little bit, and now he's getting more reps, which we didn't hear about Brandon Parker getting the swing tackle reps. It was just Thayer Mumford. So I think a lot of that had to do with bolstering up Thayer. So yeah, for me, stock down a little bit for Thayer Mumford, but he has plenty of time to prove it.
Yeah, he came in after Jermaine, and yeah, he didn't really look all that great, especially going against backups. But hey, it's still a competition over there because Illuminar. Did you think Illuminar played great, especially going against backups?
Well, let me
He's a
say
starting right tackle.
he's a no that yeah, but he did that last year too. They did the same thing. This is what they do. They get those
Yeah,
guys in a rhythm early, so they hit week one and they're kind of they're comfortable with each other. Van Roten was out there, Dylan Parham was out there, so you got some starters that were out there, and it's not indicative of them having a bad camp. It was just giving them more reps. So
so you giving that right guard to Roten?
that seems to be the direction that they're going right now. I mean, if it's not Alex Bars, but it's definitely open between Bars and Van Roten right now. Now, that's not personally the direction maybe I would go. I would
Right.
like to see Natane Moody earn that spot, but if Van Roten or Bars is the most consistent guy, and maybe it's going to be a mix of those guys, then maybe we can go that route.
Yeah. I don't know why the chat on our end is
Yeah,
not.
the chat on my end and the viewership is not caught up. So I have you guys. That's why I keep looking up to my left, if you guys notice on screen, because I have you guys on the monitor and I'm able to see the comments that way. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry for that, but that's the way that I'm able to see you guys tonight. StreamYard is having issues.
Yeah.
Uh, but man, let's head into the injury update. And I know that you got some audio. Let's just address the elephant in the room. The Raiders have put Brandon Parker on season-ending IR for the second straight season, officially probably wrapping up his time as a Raider. And personally, I just want to take a second. Thank you, Brandon Parker, for being a Raider. It's
Good
tough.
dude, man.
Good dude, really good dude. Maybe not a fan favorite as far as production, but just a good, humble guy. Was proud to wear the shield. I think that this is the end. I don't want to just write him off like that, but
For the Raiders. We'll just say for the Raiders. I don't
just
know.
for the Raiders. But so thank you, Brandon Parker. But it's time to set our eyes on the future at the right tackle spot, and we wish him all the prayers and a recovery and able to bounce back and find a job somewhere. But yeah, so that was announced today as well.
Right.
Injury update on Tyree Wilson. What is it that you got? And maybe we got a little audio to play for you guys.
So this wasn't a surprise, but obviously their Michael Mayer is going to be the starter week 1. That's what they're reporting.
Yeah.
So he's been out. So hopefully we'll get him back soon, especially to finish out the preseason, because we want to see him. As much as I was excited to see Fatherham make those catches, I want to see Michael Mayer, man. I want to see Michael Mayer run those routes. And we know that, just seeing how productive Fatherham is in that tight end role in that offense. Imagine a guy like Michael Mayer starting offense with Devontae Adams on one side.
Right.
You got Kobe Myers and you got obviously Hunter Renfrow. It's going to be exciting offense, in my opinion. I think I'm kind of seeing it. I'm seeing it with how everything is just unfolding. But that being said, Tyree Wilson he's expected to come back. There was a report saying in the next 2 weeks. Albert Beer, solid source. But the other day, I seen that a sports doctor chimed in on Tyree Wilson's injury. So I'm gonna go ahead and play a little bit of a snippet from what he said, and then we'll talk about it. Hold on.
The Las Vegas Raiders' top draft pick, Tyree Wilson, suffered from a right foot injury on this play. It's subtle, but watch him plant that foot as he makes contact with the offensive lineman. And then as he attempts to push off, you notice a slight twisting motion or abduction moment of that midfoot just by simply having your foot plantar flexed while pushing the front of the foot into the ground, and then performing any twisting, pivoting, or pushing off can direct enough force through that complex to cause it to fail. And here is Dr. Deepak Chona giving us a data-driven prediction of when he'll likely return.
Wilson has an excellent chance to be ready to play week 1. We do often see decreased production for the first year back. So overall, our data projects a 2/3 chance Wilson plays week 1 at about 80% explosiveness and rising over the course of the first 8 weeks to about 90%.
Thumbs up and subscribe if you learned something new.
All right. So what I thought that was interesting that he said that there's not a huge chance that he's probably going to be there week 1 or whatever. That's not the big thing for me. Is the fact that when he does come back, they have him at 80% explosiveness with that type of foot injury that he has. So the type of foot injury that he has, usually players are at 80% as far as their explosiveness, which is huge because it's a player that the Raiders are excited about and want to incorporate in his defense. And even more interesting is the fact that they project him to be at 90% by week 8.
And he wasn't the most explosive player to begin with. You know what I mean? Off the line of scrimmage.
And the type of injury that he has, it's most likely like a Lynn, I don't know if I'm pronouncing
Lynn injury.
Yeah. So, oh man, it's tough, man. Because when it comes to draft picks and injuries, I'm kind of sensitive about that. Raiders taking a risk, which and I remember when we drafted him, there was a reason why he dropped to number 7. It wasn't because of the talent; it was because of the red flags with his injuries. That being said, this is just a random sports doctor that wanted to chime in on the injury, but it's something to think about, especially because the Raiders we haven't seen Tyree Wilson show up at camp yet. So hopefully he comes back and he's 100%. But hey, at the end of the day, I think the Raiders they took a gamble because they felt like he was a good risk to take, and not just for this season, for the future of the Raiders. So, but we'll see, man. We'll see if he comes back and he's that explosive player.
And I don't mind if the Raiders take their time with him. You've got Chandler Jones, you've got a vet there, you've got Malcolm Kuntz, you've got Max Crosby. You can find ways to create pressure. We want to see Tyree Wilson week 1, me included. I'm a big fan of him. He was my number 1 edge rush prospect coming out. Everybody has seen the reaction when we did our live show for the draft. We were excited about it, right? But look, I want Tyree Wilson at his absolute best. And if I have to wait till week 4 until he feels good and explosive enough and ready to go, then I'm okay with that, because I'm not trying to create any more setbacks. I'm not trying to create any more issues for that foot. In this first year, look, he might not be at 100% this whole first year. You might not see the 100% Tyree Wilson until next year. So I know that's unfortunate to say because he was taken with the 7th overall pick, but it's just the reality of the situation. And we have to be prepared for that. So we're going to take this first year, at least for me and probably Pharaoh as well. We're going to take this first year as let him get his feet wet in the NFL, let him learn behind Chandler and Max, and let him develop his pass rush skills and what it's like to prepare and practice and game plan and study at the level of the National Football League. And man, year 2 with this draft class, it's going to be huge moving forward.
Right. And it kind of makes sense too, because the Raiders feel comfortable at that DN edge rusher spot, with Chandler Jones and obviously Max Crosby. And then you see guys like Malcolm Kuntz making plays, Isaac Rochelle making plays, so, maybe it makes sense to keep a little bit more players at that spot, especially with the Tyree Wilson coming back. They're probably going to take their time. They're going to be really cautious with him. Just based off what was heard.
Yeah, and I agree. And final segment before we're going to open up the phone lines for a couple calls. We won't leave the line open for too long, but we want to let you guys call in and get your guys' opinion. But before we do, man, we're gonna kind of breeze through this because we have another show coming this week that you guys are going to want to stay tuned for. And we're going to be recapping the 2 joint practices between the Raiders and the Rams. So joint practice, things to look for. And look, let's keep this simple. I'm just looking for turnovers. I'm looking to create consistency. The guys up front, I want to see the offensive line get after it. I want to see D-line get after it. I want to see the DBs get the hand on the football. And I want to see Aiden O'Connell continue to take steps to show, like, if he can do this consistently, to kind of show us the player that he really is. So for me, let's just continue to build on the momentum that we've created from week 1. Let's take our practice habits into the LA facility. Let's dominate them. They're a lesser team than what the 49ers were. Let's kind of come 2-0 out of practice against them, go into the preseason game, stack up another win, and let's just keep it pushing and on our way to week 1.
Yeah, continue that defensive dominance. I want to see this defense dominate against a different team. Last week it was the Niners. Obviously the week before that was their own teammates, the Raiders, and now they got the Rams this week. So hopefully they can continue to do that. Like you said, I agree. I want to see more turnovers. I want them, because that's an emphasis. There's obviously an emphasis because the Raiders haven't really turned the ball over or forced turnovers the last few years on defense. So just continue to build off those strong habits that they made during practice, and hopefully they can do that. Offensively, I want to hear Jimmy. Hey, I know you mentioned Aiden O'Connell, but Aiden O'Connell is not the starter. I want to see Jimmy G. I want to hear some good things with Jimmy G. Him getting back and getting more chemistry. I'm not sure if Devontae Adams is going to be a part of the joint practice, just because they're probably going to be more cautious with him because he got hit the week prior. But just seeing the offense run smoothly, just making plays, because that's all we want. We want the Raiders to make plays out there offensively, defensively, and just build off what they've been doing. And man, I'm looking forward to this joint practice. I mean, it's not as talented team as probably the Niners, but even the Niners, they, like you mentioned before, and I'm glad you kind of pointed that out. They don't look as strong as I thought they were, and maybe because maybe losing a defensive coach who's now the head coach of the Houston Texans might be a huge loss for them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that quarterback position is not as strong as they thought they were going with Purdy, because Purdy was struggling against his defense, according to reports in training camp. Now, we'll see. At the end of the day, we went out there, we competed, and we looked like the better team in training camp and obviously on Sunday. But with the Rams, I'm looking just to continue the same things that we've been hearing as far as the defense, and then obviously the offense making plays out there too.
Yeah, and I'm going to have you take over I'm going to post this call-in show. I'm going to refresh and see if we can't get these comments to pop up, because StreamYard is acting goofy tonight. So you take over to this. I'm going to refresh the page and come back in.
All right, let me see if I can pull up the comments right now. As you can see, the call-in number is 628-333-9343, man. Let us know your thoughts, man. The Raiders just won last Sunday, and we want to hear from y'all, Raider Nation. Look, let me see if I can get into the chat real quick. I got YouTube pulled up real quick. Hold on, just 1 second. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Man, we appreciate everybody pulling up. And if you haven't liked the video, make sure to hold up. Let me time this up perfectly. Make sure to hit that like button. And if you have,
man, and we're good. And yeah, we had almost 100 comments that we didn't get to read. So
yeah, man. Hey, my man, I don't know what's going
and
on.
Look, I'll go through some of them because we got the call-in show. So I just want to read out these comments because I want this to be a part of your show as well. So, yeah, a lot of people. O'Connell had time. Parham concussion. Parham had a glazed look in his eyes. Yeah, I think he got a concussion. Daniel Kim says, first preseason game, we look much better, and we just need to stack growth on top of these wins at each level of the defense and offense. Yes, facts.
Oh, man, what did you – I think we're back. StreamYard. Look at StreamYard. Comments. They're up to date.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm reading now.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. I had to just refresh it. Raider Way says, let him heal. Yeah, Parham looked like he got his bell rung. Yep. We don't need Wilson right away. We have Jones and Kuntz. I agree. Yeah, that's kind of what we were saying. Nothing But Raiders podcast. If you guys haven't, go over there and subscribe to Nothing But Raiders podcast. What's good, fellas? What's going on? We're excited that you guys decided to pull up, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, you guys doing big things over there. We see y'all.
Don't worry, Wilson will be okay. Yep, we agree. Let Wilson cook. Ray Love says let Wilson cook. Hey, I hope he can come in and dominate. I agree, yep. Ray. Trey Tucker needs to hit the jug machines, hands like feet.
Yep, I agree.
Kevin Lurker says everyone is a doctor now and has personal info on Tyree when nobody knows if we're being pacified by their uncertainty or not. He might be fine. However, we have been led on before. We have. But look, a Liz Frank injury, when you're that big of a player, historically, it's not necessarily the greatest thing, right? So it is something to monitor. It is something to kind of watch out for. So, with that being said, no, I agree. And everybody that's in the building, man, make sure you go smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, shoots this video up the algorithm, lets more Raider fans find out what we're doing over here. And we've got a big announcement coming up. We're kind of chomping at the bit. We've kind of been hitting at it here and there. I don't think anybody's picked up on it yet. But there's a big announcement coming soon. So the call-in show, let me pull that number back up just for you guys.
Put it on the ticker.
On the ticker. Yep.
Yeah. Just so we can see the comments and then.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to Kevin Lurker's comment, he said everyone is a doctor now and has personnel info on Tyree when nobody knows if we're being pacified by their uncertainty or not. he might not be fine with however we've been led or on before. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like it's just a matter of him just coming. Hey, he can everything can shut down as soon as Wilson comes back and he puts on a show. And then we're not going to be wondering if he's 80%, 90%, because at the end of the day, he's productive. He's making plays out there. And the good thing about the Raiders situation, it's not like we're depending on Wilson to come back and be that premier edge rusher. We already got that in Max Crosby, and hopefully Chandler Jones, him losing weight, he could be a more productive player this year. So,
and how are you feeling about him with that weight loss? By the way, like, do you think that's overall going to be good, or how are you kind of viewing that?
Possibly might be using him differently this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because I think last year they put an emphasis on him trying to stop the run, which makes sense. You wanted him a little bit heavier than you would, and now he's lost a lot of weight. And if you're going to lose a lot of weight, then, and you want him to stop the run, I'm not sure if that's a good combination. So I think they got something up their sleeve. I think Raiders defensive coaching staff got something up their sleeve with Chandler Jones.
GA Patriot says, facts, Ray, Zeus is not him. Maybe a good committee guy, but he isn't ready to be a bell cow. Yeah, it's just, I don't see it, man. He's got a lot of hype, and it's no disrespect, but it's just, as far as a running back one, I don't see it. Maybe I'm the odd guy out, but I don't see him as an RB1.
Yeah, not right now. Maybe he can develop into a solid running back, but I don't think he's a special back. Like when we obviously two different backs, but Josh Jacobs, he was drafted in the first round, and he was, people were projecting him to go in the later first round, maybe high second round if the Raiders didn't pick him. Jacobs, you could see it when he runs the ball. Like, man, this guy's nice, man. He can make it's, and it's all about one of the biggest responsibilities as a running back is to make the guy miss. And I feel like Zamir White, he's missing that part of his game. Like, it's just like, well, how do you not? It's not going to be perfect every time. The O-line is not going to be blocking for you every time. You need to. Sometimes you got to make something out of nothing, and that's what Josh Jacobs has. He has that it factor.
And GA Patriot says stock down Chase Garbers. Yeah, it's what's crazy is last year when we were looking at the backup quarterback position, Jarrett Stidham and Chase Garbers, and there was all the discussion in the preseason, who they liked. Nick Mullins was in that group, and all the guys just kind of looked similar. There wasn't one guy that just looked like the premier backup. But this year, I don't think it's even close. I think the Raiders, Aiden O'Connell looked like a starting caliber quarterback out there. And you compare him to, a practice squad guy in Chase Garbers, and it's not even close. So Aiden O'Connell, if the Raiders really did look, let's put it this way. If that's the player that Aiden O'Connell is, I don't think that there's 32 other quarterbacks in the league that are better than Aiden O'Connell. I think that he could be a starter somewhere. I really do. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be top 20, but I think that Aiden O'Connell can definitely be a starter in the National Football League.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue when you see what he did last Sunday, but I'm just going to be the other side. I'm going to play devil's advocate. It's still early.
Oh, it's super early.
And to be honest with you, I'm glad that he was able to make plays, but that O-line dominated their D-line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had all day to throw.
Mm-hmm.
He had all day.
Well, that's important with the type of guys that we have in that quarterback room.
Yeah,
and the responsibilities that Carmen Bracilla has put on this offensive line, the structure of it to keep those guys upright in the pocket for how long that they can is pretty impressive. Like the game planning, the offensive line, defensive line games that are going on, and the Raiders' ability to manipulate those and come out on top and to keep those non-mobile quarterbacks upright and give them time. It's really impressive. So if you can give a guy like Aiden O'Connell time, I mean, he's shown accuracy, he's shown poise, he's going to put the football where it needs to be. He can kind of pick you apart. So now, like you said, sample size. He went 15 of 18, so that was a relatively large sample size for a first preseason game. So if we can see that for the next 2 or 3 games, that's going to be impressive. But Jerome Clemens says, I think the big difference I saw from last year is that this team looks bought in on Josh McDaniels. You could tell not everyone was on board last season. The energy was totally different. That's a great comment. I want to echo that because I think you can see it on the sidelines. You can hear it in player interviews. You can hear it in practice. I think what also bodes well for Josh McDaniels this season, it sounds like they went to the drawing board and really asked.
The audio went out. I mean, but that's going to happen. It's going to happen when you have a new coaching staff coming in, and then you have
There we go.
old players from the last regime, because that's what usually when a new regime comes in, they blow everything up.
Yeah.
But in the last year's situation, they wanted to continue what the Raiders had because they wanted to win, and
Yep.
it didn't happen. And you had certain players from last regime that wanted to do it their way, or they thought their way was better based off what the previous regime coached. And you can see there's a clash. And now this year is kind of different. Now they kind of purged that locker room a little bit, got rid of players that weren't fully bought in. They got players that fit in their system. We'll see what happens this year. I'm still waiting and seeing. I'm not gonna act like the Raiders are gonna win the Super Bowl this year. We gotta see it on the football field. We gotta see this offense perform. I think defensively, that's the excitement right now. I'm like, okay, we're hearing all these good things in training camp. Then we see the backups last Sunday put on a show. So hopefully, like, they can continue down with against the Rams and build off what they've been doing.
Well, like I was saying before the audio cut, I think the coaching staff took a look in the mirror and how they could improve as coaches. And I think you're really seeing that as well, because there's something to Patrick Graham coming out and simplifying the defense, because now it is just spread all over the defense. Guys are flying around. Guys are happy. They're enjoying playing football. And Josh McDaniels went to Patrick Graham and told him he has to simplify things on the defensive side of the ball. And my big question is I wonder if Josh McDaniels said the same thing to himself offensively, to kind of get these young guys up to speed a lot quicker and able to contribute. You know, I haven't really heard anybody talk about it, but I'd be curious to see if Josh McDaniel himself maybe simplified and made things a little bit less wordy, so guys can kind of pick up this offense and move along a lot quicker. So
let me comment on that too, because
okay.
I think a big thing about part of the defense playing better this year, and I think the coaching staff, props to them, they made an adjustment. They simplified the defense a little bit so the players can play a little bit faster. And it's the second year in the defense. So it's a combination of, like, okay, the second year in the defense, players are starting to, get used to this defense, but also they made an adjustment to their coaching style, and now they're playing a little bit faster. I think we lost Ray, but he'll come back in a second. But I think that's part of why the Raiders defensively are playing a little bit better, is because they're playing faster.
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to refresh so we can get these chats caught up here. Man, you guys have been okay.
Yeah, we appreciate your patience, man. This technical difficulties out of our control.
Yeah, StreamYard is just acting wild tonight. But Quan says, "What's good, bro? Aiden O'Connell played great Sunday's preseason game 1 against the Whiners, and our defense looked hungry." Facts, man. And if you missed any of the show, go back and recap it. We expressed that, and we're excited about where this defense is going. Raider Booty says, "I see a lot of people saying we won preseason last year and won 6 games, like it will happen again this year. We are comparing preseason and compare equals. Last time we cooked a team was Arizona 31-3 in 02. It hasn't been that long, has it? In 02? 31-3? No.
Well, look, at the end of the day, we don't really care if the Raiders win or lose in preseason, because it's not really a determining factor of how the season's going to go.
Here you go, Sean. Or Quan. Shout me out. There you go. Shout out to Quan.
Shout out
Love
to
says,
Quan.
shout out Quan. Raider Way says, restructure JJ's contract and give him a bonus this year. He earned it last year. Yeah, I think you give him his money this year.
Did you see Dave Z talking to fans, and the fans like, "Hey, man, you should give him. You should sign Josh Jacobs to a long-term deal." And he was telling the fans, like, "We're gonna make it happen," and all that type of stuff. Did you see that?
Yeah, I seen it. He's just reassuring the fans that he's going to get him in the building. I heard a report that it's sooner rather than later that he's coming back. So I hope it's true.
I mean, every running back signed that was holding out. So
in Raider Way, I would say I get it, but I'm not with you on this, just because I think horror is huge as far as the development of Aiden O'Connell, of understanding terminology, understanding the scheming system. Hoyer isn't brought in here to come and play football. He's here to coach the system to the young guy. So
and Jimmy G, because Jimmy G
and Jimmy G. So this was just a guy that you hired as a guy to relate to the player in a way that the coaches can't relate, and to get them caught up into the scheme and system and discuss what they see out there. So he's going to be a clipboard guy. You know, he's a glorified offensive assistant. You know what I mean? Good points. Players seem happy. Webb looks solid. Yeah, you know what? I think that interception was really
it was a gift.
It was a gift. It kind of fell into his hands a little bit. It wasn't him really making a play on the ball per se. It was just kind of hit the hands, popped up in the air, and hey, he came away with a pick. I love turnovers. I'll take them any way I can get them. I'm not complaining.
Right.
But yeah, I'm also going to refresh this. Okay, so you take over for a second.
Yeah, let me get into the chat. Let me see here. Daniel Kim says JT O'Sullivan was giving Aiden O'Connell some mad props for his base and ability to move the ball decisively. Did you read that comment?
What?
Daniel Kim saying, because JT from what's the name of his channel where he breaks down film?
Oh, is it football?
Is it QB
school or something like that?
QB school, and he does a really good job. Shout out to him, man. Yeah, he broke down Aiden O'Connell, and it was a lot to like. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The league is noticing. They're noticing what Aiden O'Connell was able to accomplish on Sunday, because like no one, he was a quarterback that was drafted in the 4th, 5th round, and he was the best looking quarterback this weekend. Obviously, the league is you know, you got Steve Mariucci talking about like this guy, he automatically looks like a starter and yada yada yada. But the more Aiden O'Connell, you know, puts together games and practices, the hype train is gonna, you know, it's gonna continue for him.
Well, guys, today was a great show, and StreamYard's having issues, so I don't want to extend it. We're gonna regroup here after the joint practices. Me and Pharaoh, we're gonna be dropping a video, so you guys are gonna want to tune in. Hit the bell notification icon. It lets you know when the video is uploaded, so you guys can tune in right away. So make sure, go to Real Raider Ray, hit the bell notification icon, subscribe if you haven't been subscribed, run up the likes on this video. Even when it's over, go back and make a comment. Helps with the algorithm. And tune into the next live. We will have a video dropping this week. So look around Thursday night, Friday morning, and you should be able to find that video where we're going to break down the 2 joint practices and what to look for heading into the LA Rams versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Raider Nation, it's an exciting time. Pharaoh, you got any closing statements?
Man, hey man, I'm excited. I'm real positive, especially this time of year. I'm always positive, but especially after a game like the Raiders did, you know, for them to just, like I said, everything that they've been talking about in training camp, it happened last game against the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll get to see more of that against the Rams. So I'm definitely going to be excited to figure out what happens against them.
All right, Raider Nation, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Look for us later this week. We're looking forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully StreamYard has it together a little bit. And until next time, you guys.
Just win, baby.
Peace.